much, David. Thank you, Catherine, as well. Hey, everyone from Ironhack, everyone not from Ironhack. I see we have some people from all around the world in here. I saw Berlin, I saw Ethiopia. That's really awesome. And I really like some of you guys' backgrounds. Chris, I see you laying in the grass. That's pretty awesome. Justin, I see you going down in flames. I hope you're okay. And Ryan, I see you probably in some European country. That's wonderful. Yeah, really cool backgrounds going on here. I know David's at Ironhack. He just misses it so much. Okay, so let me just get into this here. I want to start with a little anecdote, and then hopefully I will share my screen correctly. So I want to start off with talking about my college roommate. Her name is Shelby. And so I went to UCF for 2 years when I started college, and I had this roommate named Shelby, and we were young. I was 17 when I started college. She was maybe 18. And she told me about all these incredible things that she did already. So she came from a rather religious family. She went on a lot of mission trips. She was going to do Teach for America over the summer. She was doing all these cool things. And I had never met anyone like Shelby before. And I was like, Shelby, how do you do all these cool things? You always have so many things to talk about that I can't say any of this stuff. And she had this wonderful story, and I didn't know it at that point, but basically she had a personal brand, and that's what I wanted too. I really wanted a story to tell. I really wanted something to be remembered by, and so she was, I think my starting inspiration with this whole thing, really having a story to tell. So that brings me into the start of the lecture. Let me share my screen. The chat keeps distracting me. I'm a little bit ADD. Okay. Let me get into this here. Share screen.
And while Emily gets that set up, guys, I did just send you a message in the chat, but if you have any questions, just send those questions to the chat. We'll make a list and Emily will get into answering those for you at the end. All right?
Okay. So. All right, can everyone see the screen? I don't think I can change it to, let me see if I can do this and tell me if you can still see the screen if I do this. Yes?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes.
Awesome. Hey, Nico, didn't see you. All right, this is You're a Book, You're a Brand, Storytelling and Personal Branding. Okay. So I'm Emily Cleary, as you know, and I'm just a mango-loving human being. I actually made a mango smoothie this morning. It's pretty good. Use soursop as well. That's a new one. So it's mango season, guys. Remember, go eat your mangoes. And I'll tell you some more about me as we go on. So just some of the points that I'm going to cover today. Telling your story, how others tell your story, increasing your brand value, and your brand value's impact. So Jeff Bezos, a very little known man, he said, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And I'm so used to doing this talk in an interactive manner, I'm going to have to cut some things out. So normally I'll ask, how do you feel about what a brand is? But I'll just go ahead and sort of take it on this time and then answer questions at the end. So it starts with telling your story. I feel that there's three main pillars, I guess, when it comes to personal branding. And the first is your story. So you're writing the book of your life, and you're writing this every day. You can choose which path to take. You can choose when it's time to go on to a new chapter. You can choose the characters. You can choose all the different things in your book. The whole storyline you can choose, and you can change it at any time, which is such, a magical and wonderful thing about life. And of course, you are the main character in your story. So as I'm talking about this, I want you to think about, so far in your life, what's your story? I know a lot of you are current Ironhack students. Maybe you're changing your story now, right? So you want to go from being maybe you were working in a call center or something, and now you want to go be a web developer or UX designer. So that's part of your story. And being able to connect every piece of your story is wonderful. It looks great when you can do it, and it helps you grow and helps you learn how far you've come. So humans love stories. So we can start with how stories came about. they love stories because they teach us lessons. So some things you can't learn in school. We learn to empathize when we can tell and share stories. We can have compassion for others, and they allow us to connect because we're all just humans anyway. And I want to share a little quick anecdote about that I read, a metaphorical anecdote. So there was a man, and his job was to deliver water in clay pots. The man was from India, and he would just walk along a path to deliver water, right? So one pot was perfectly built, I guess. It was a perfect pot. There was nothing wrong with it. And then the other pot had cracks in it. So whenever he would deliver the water, he would always carry it on his back like this. And so he'd walk, and, the water would spill out a little bit. And eventually the cracked pot got so upset because after years and years and years, the cracked pot would always deliver only half of a pot of water to whoever was receiving it, whereas the full pot would always deliver a full pot of water. So the cracked pot was basically a little bit jealous, and he felt, unworthy. And at that point, the man said to the cracked pot, "Do you not realize all the flowers that grow on your side of the path? And there's no flowers on the side where the full pot is. I take those flowers every day. I deliver them to the customers. I bring them home to my family. I use them for different things. I make things beautiful with these flowers. And the only reason the flowers grow is because you have cracks in your pot." And so basically the whole idea is take every crack in your story, take every part that you may not be proud of, and learn to not regret it, because you needed that in order to grow into something else, into something beautiful. So I'm going to skip this part. We're not going to write a story together. But we are going to look at this. So this is where stories first started. So this is the Megura cave in Bulgaria, about 8,000 to 4,000 years old, right? So cave paintings, that's where stories started. That's how people communicated with each other when we were doing all the hunting and gathering. Then it moved on to hieroglyphics, right? Those cave paintings got just a little bit more sophisticated. And this is in ancient Egypt. All of these preserved hieroglyphics and how people used to communicate. Then we moved on to oral traditions. So this happened in many different cultures. So you have myths, songs, and chants in lots of Eastern cultures, and you have lots of storytelling in native cultures. And then it moves on to written languages. So Latin, right? So Latin is a base language for many of the love languages: Italian, French, Spanish. Latin's not so much used anymore today, but it was one of the founding fathers of our languages. Tech and media. So this is how we tell stories now, right? So this is me texting myself on the right side. That's why I look so funny. These like emojis, right? We always need an emoji. We always need an LOL, or else we're too serious. We text all the time. I recently found out about this thing on the iPhone. If you text pew pew, like PEW, it sends like laser beams. It's pretty cool. So the developers were having fun when they made that. But this is how we talk to people nowadays. Even more stories. Okay, so in the news app, this is what I've been checking during this whole, strange time that we're having, the pandemic. You always have the top stories coming up in the news. You also have stories in the App Store. So I searched for Facebook at one point, and I was trying to download it, and different stories come up. But this is social networking. There's Influencers Toolkit. They are everywhere. I mean, everywhere. So Snapchat, right? Maybe not so popular anymore. I haven't used Snapchat and I don't even know how long, but this whole stories thing that Instagram took over, right? Good old Zuck. Started on Snapchat. So on the left-hand side is a screenshot from Instagram, and then on the right-hand side is a screenshot from creating a Facebook story. So I had never created one at this point, so that's why it looks like that. It's your onboarding screen. But it's everywhere. Stories, people want to know about each other's lives. People are either influenced in good or bad way by other people. People are sometimes bored, nosy, who knows? It's so many reasons, but they're there and they're here to stay. So after you have your story, right, you have your character. So in your story, you're the main character, and hopefully you're a protagonist. You want to be positive, right? We don't have any time for negativity here. And character is defined as the way someone thinks, feels, and behaves. It's someone's personality. It's what someone stands for, holds dear, their values, principles, and their calling. So if you have a solid character, a solid foundation, people will want to know who you are. You know, they'll speak about you in a good way. Experience. So the thing that we can talk about the most is ourselves, right? Because the longest relationship we have is with ourselves. And it's what we're the most confident about. So our own character, we're confident about that. And we're confident about how we create our stories through our experiences. So here's a little bit about my story. On the left is me in 2012. I'm a singer, and it explains the records on the wall. This is like a real background, not a Zoom background. I'm in my music room. And on the right is me in 2013 in June. So I was actually, when I was growing up, I was always overweight. I was actually considered obese by, you know, scientific medical standard. I was made fun of, bullied all the time. I was not a happy person. I was mean, I was depressed. I wasn't anything like I am now. And there was a catalyst that made me want to lose weight. So I had tried to lose weight many times. You know, I would actually go get a decent workout for someone who knew nothing about working out. And then I would go home and eat like Flamin' Hot Cheetos and like any crap that I could find because, you know, that makes sense. This picture here on the left is from April 20th, 2012. I had a show that I did at FAU. I had transferred to FAU at that point. FAU is Florida Atlantic University, for those of you who don't know, that's in Boca Raton, Florida. And I was in a music class as an elective, and I had this performance. So the night before was a dress rehearsal, and I had 1 minute to change and go back on the stage before singing my next song. And I couldn't catch my breath. I had to run off the stage. I couldn't complete the dress rehearsal. I was in terrible shape. I got sick and everything. The show luckily went great. However, I saw the video playback and I was not happy. I couldn't believe how I let myself go. I was in a bad relationship, you know, I was depressed and all these different things. And then the next day, I'm very like a cold turkey person. The next day, I just cut out most of the crap from my diet, like fast food and soda and all these different things. And then that was a Saturday, and the Tuesday after that, I started going to the gym. I was going with a great friend of mine. Her name is Aoife, and we would go 5 days a week, every week together, and for like 2 months. And then our schedules were completely different, and we couldn't go together anymore. So I'd meet up with her once every 2 weeks. She'd give me a new workout to do, and I would do that workout for 2 weeks straight. 9 months of tunnel vision, very limited social life. I was on unemployment. I was finishing school. It was an interesting time in my life. And I was the person on the right. So I had lost 80 pounds in about 9 months. So on the left photo, I was 230 pounds. The right photo, I'm like probably 150 here. I was a little thinner than I am now. And it was just those 9 months of tunnel vision. It's really all mental. The shift is completely mental. The byproduct is the physical, but it's very much a part of my story now. It's how I'm able to apply the discipline that I need to do the things that I want to do in any area of my life. So how others tell your story. Let's move on to that. This is really important. It's about your reputation. So like I said, there's 3 pillars of personal branding in my eyes. So character and experience, which we went through, right? And then reputation. So what is reputation? So this would normally be interactive, so I'll just go ahead and say. So Jesse Martin basically finished off Jeff Bezos's quote, and he was saying, you know, all you have in your life is your name and the reputation that you garner. So it connects to your brand, connects to your experience, your character, everything. So it's about how other people conceive you and what people think of you and your personal brand. It's how other people think of you when you're not in the room. And impression management has a lot to do with this. So I have a master's in sociology. So my undergrad is in business administration and sociology, my master's in sociology, and then I went to Ironhack for UX. And I learned about impression management when I was in grad school. And this is a sociological concept perspective. It's basically the effort to control or influence other people's perceptions. So they say you never get a second chance to make a first impression, things like that. But when I think of impression management, I think of like social media, right? So you'll see a lot of people posting all this stuff on social media, and maybe you personally know this person, and you know that's not really who they are. They don't really have those things. They don't really act in that way. You know, like this is just a front. This is just how they want people to understand them, because you only know what people decide to show you. So impression management is really important when it comes to your reputation and to how you want people to understand you as a professional on a personal level, on whatever level. So it has a lot to do with your reputation. Yes, and I already said this. No one really knows who originally said that. There was a few different authors for that quote, so we'll just leave it at no one really knows. So some things I want you to think about. How would people describe you when you're not in the room? How would people summarize you when referring you for a job or an opportunity? How would people remember your elevator pitch? So I challenge you to research your reputation. And this can be really simple to do. Let me see. Yeah, I didn't put it on here. So it's just asking your friends, ask your family these questions right here. Take a screenshot. There's going to be, this will be posted somewhere. This is being recorded. So ask them, how would they describe you when you're not in the room? Ask professional people you know, colleagues, friends, maybe people that you don't even know that well. That's what this person did. Her name is Alex. So she actually saw this presentation live and she created this survey and she posted it on LinkedIn. And I thought it was interesting because I wasn't sure how people who didn't know her would be able to respond to the survey, but she said that people did respond just based on the post that she made and her photo that she had up there. So there are things that you can learn about yourself that maybe you wouldn't even realize. A photo can say a lot about a person. The way you write things on your profile can say a lot about you. And so this was really interesting. UXers, I know you have to do research, so this is a great way for you to find some things out about yourself. And don't be surprised if you find out things that you don't want to hear or that you don't want to know. If you find out that people can give you some great constructive criticism on how you react sometimes to situations or how you, I don't know, it could be anything. Take that and learn from it. Don't be like, oh no, you're wrong. Because if you're seeing a pattern that people are saying, oh, you react kind of negatively when this happens or something like that, then that's something that you should be considerate of and learn how to change it. Okay. So just a quick fact. So 82% of investors want the companies they invest in to have a strong brand. So if you have a strong brand, people are going to want to invest in you more because they know that they can get more out of it, right? There's more ROI, so return on investment. Why should people like you? Why should people invest in you? Because I can do the work, I have good character, I have good reputation, and I can make you money. That's really, what it comes to in business. Okay, so increasing your brand value. So how do you do that? How do you get people to invest in you or to like you? Sell yourself. It's pretty simple, and I'll give you some ways that you can do it. So how to sell yourself. 22% of consumers say authenticity is the most important brand attribute. 31% say it's trustworthiness. And 29% say it's being creative. So normally I like to ask different opinions about this. Feel free to write your opinion in the chat. I can check it afterwards. I think that being authentic and being trustworthy are more important than being creative, because I think that creativity depends on the field. So say there's mega pharma companies, right? Pharmacies, medicine, drugs, things like that. You don't have to be creative to be super successful in that field. Or you don't have to sell yourself in a creative way to be super successful for a more traditional industry. So that's the only reason why I say that, but being creative absolutely helps. Okay, this is something I like to chat about as well. So this relates to authenticity. This is Instagram. So Instagram changed for many users the way they see likes. So if you see on the left-hand picture, you see the number of likes. And this is how Instagram was from the beginning. On the right-hand side, you don't see the number of likes. I'm curious to know who has what view on their Instagram. I still have this view on the left-hand side where I can see all the numbers of likes. A lot of people I know don't have that view anymore. So I don't know how they rolled out the new update with the likes, but I haven't seen that way yet. I think it has a lot to do with authenticity. So how is this going to affect the influencer market if you can't see how many likes they have? You can't really understand their engagement from likes to comments. You know, are they having real followers or not? Are people buying followers? And it also affects what people decide to post. So maybe the picture with the yellow umbrella wouldn't be so popular if the likes were showing, right? If the number of likes were showing. But if the likes don't matter, then people, I think, are more inspired to post more authentically and not for a reaction. Just something to think about. And the reasons Instagram gave for doing this are basically what I said. So you're focusing on the photos and the videos you share, so the content, not how many likes they get. It's about, if you like it, then you share it. And it's about creating a less pressurized environment where people feel comfortable expressing themselves. So selling yourself, be relatable, you know, talk about things that people can understand, share similar stories, be kind. It's simple, just be a good human, be a kind human. There's a lot of people who aren't kind and we don't need that. Be inspirational. So if you have something that you think will inspire someone, share that. And if they don't like it, who cares? Like, someone's going to hear you. If you don't feel like you're inspirational, I'm sure there's something that you've done that inspired somebody else, or you could certainly find something to do to inspire somebody else. People like being inspired. I'm sure you see these things, there's like videos on Facebook all the time and, you know, about different things. Like, I fall for like a lot of the dog ones. I can't say they're very inspirational. They inspire me to get a dog. How about that? But being positive is also really important. No negative Nancy's, negative Nelsons. That's not allowed. I very much believe in the law of attraction. I know that everything is energy and just an exchange. So what you put out there is what you'll get back eventually. Fail forward. This is something that I learned in UX class, actually, from David. If you guys haven't learned it yet, you will. And if you haven't failed yet, you will. Just keep going. I love this photo here of the famous failures. All of these people, they let go of fear. They got comfortable with the uncomfortable and they failed forward and failed fast. So this is all about just keep going, keep failing until you get it right. So the Beatles, they were rejected by hundreds of record labels, hundreds of A&Rs before they finally got their shot. So many people said that they weren't talented. Michael Jordan, he was cut from the high school basketball team. Steve Jobs was pushed out of his company. Walt Disney, fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Albert Einstein, he had a speech impediment. He couldn't talk until he was almost 4 years old, and his teacher said he would never amount to much. And it also took him years, I want to say decades, to figure out his law of gravitational relativity. And he finally figured it out after failing and failing and failing. When you have these people, and Oprah, of course, how could I forget? She was demoted from her job because she wasn't fit for TV. And, you know, she's a superpower. She's a powerhouse, this woman. All of these people, what they have in common is passion, right? So no matter how many times you fail, that doesn't kill your passion because your passion lives inside you, right? So it's like it's a burning fire that's always there. And if you fail, you're going to keep doing it until you get it right, till someone notices, till you have a break somewhere, till something happens, right? That sort of makes you feel like, okay, now I'm doing it right. Now I should move forward in this direction. So if you have the passion, just run with that because something will happen eventually. All right, build relationships. This is super important. So Peter Drucker, a great businessman. More business decisions occur over lunch and dinner than at any other time, yet no MBA courses are given on the subject. I think this is super interesting. So your relationships are so important, right? So the reason I'm sitting here today giving you this talk is because I went to Ironhack and I met David, and David and I became friends, and we do projects together, and he brings some old students in that, if he feels that they have something to say or has a good relationship with them, he allows them to be mentors to others. And this is so important throughout the whole Ironhack community. That it's like this, everyone helps each other out. And this is going to help you very much in real life. So to build relationships, so mentors, you become who you surround yourself with, right? So if you have a bunch of partying friends, you're partying all the time, that's probably who you're going to be at that moment. If you decide, okay, I want to start a business, you likely have to move away from that group of friends for a while. You have to build rapport. So your richest resources are in your richest relationships. This is super important. So I just read a book actually. It's called it's The Other Guy, and it's about a businessman and how he built rapport with all of his clients. So he had a pool business, and he wouldn't go into his clients' homes or potential clients' homes just say, hey, okay, let's talk business. It's okay, like he would look around, he would see a picture of one of the kids in the little league and say, oh, my son was in the little league too, you know, like finding something relatable, creating that relationship, showing that you're a real human. When you can connect on a human level, things change. And then learn. So you have to reiterate what others are talking about. When you're having a conversation with someone, say, okay, you said this, this, and this, and I understand. People like when you understand them and when you can say it back to them. Networking and community. Your network is who you know, and your reputation is who knows you. It's pretty simple. So, I mean, if you're in Iron Hack, you're in a great community already, you have a great network already, it's global, and it's only going to keep growing from there. Set yourself apart. So, find a focus. If you want to focus on anything in your life, you have to choose to do that and you have to work towards it. So say if you want to become the next accessibility guru in the UX world, then you should focus on WCAG and passing those certifications and studying everything, and you can be the next accessibility master. For me, the way I found a focus was actually, I think I use Facebook more than I realized I use it, but I was on Facebook one day a few years ago, and I was just watching some videos, and it was about this older woman. She was basically in hospice, and she was being asked, you know, what do you regret about your life? And she said, I regret not doing things I love more. And for me, that was it, because I was very much undecided between going to law school and just taking that sort of like safer route, and, you know, really chasing music and starting a band and creating an album. And I said, okay, bye law school. I'm not going to do that. You know, it's great to have that knowledge. It's wonderful, but that's not really what I want to do. That's not how I see myself living my life. So I chose music, right? And I just released my first EP in January. So I've been chasing that and, you know, working as well. Choose a color. So I want to get a little bit into this afterwards. We're going to move on to some next slides with colors, but if you can't guess my color, it's not orange, it's mango. The shirt, you know, the slides, you know, mango season. All right. Have a presence. So when you walk in a room, when you walk in a meetup, say, hey, I'm Emily. Hey, I'm Nico. Hey, I'm David. Whoever you are. Remember, you're just introducing yourself to another human. They're built up of the same exact thing as you. It's not like, oh, that person works for this, and oh, I don't know. It's like, no, hi. You know, just like be normal, and that's how you build your network and build your connections. And then share your brilliance. So if you have something that, you know, like an inspiring story or something that you know a lot about, share that with other people. You never know where it can take you. You never know who will find out about what you're brilliant at, and who you'll meet from that. So it's really important. I don't know who's sitting in this room. The last time I did this presentation actually was for Your Portfolio Sucks, which is a UX meetup group started by some Iron Hack alumni. And in the room was one of the, I don't know if she was a director for Startup Grind Fort Lauderdale chapter, but she works for Startup Grind Fort Lauderdale, which is like a mega, you know, startup company, you know, the support group and all these things. And she was in the room, and she asked me actually to do an event with them in June. So I had no idea who she was, and now I'm doing an event with Startup Grind. So that's how it works. You know, it trickles as you just keep moving. So back to choosing a color. When I was choosing my color, I didn't think about any of this stuff. I literally just asked people in my UX class, hey, what color do you think I am when you see me? Like, what colors describe me, or what colors, you know, do I remind you of? And people were saying like, orange and yellow were like my two colors. And so my professional color is orange, and then my color for music is yellow, because my musician alias, my name is Soleil. It means sun in French. So yellow and orange. But I have some more statistics, some facts for you guys if you want to go that route too. So 80% of people will recognize a brand because of the brand color. So you might have seen something like this, UX Crew, the color and motion guide. Look at all the different brands and their colors. So, and what they represent. So yellow, optimism, clarity, warmth. Orange, friendly, cheerful, confident. Blue, trust, dependable, strength. And then you have like your mixed colors up here. So Google, because they do everything, right? That makes sense. eBay, also Microsoft. I think it's interesting to look at all the different brands next to each other and see what kind of industries they're in and then what color they chose. So maybe this can be some inspiration to you to figure out a color. I actually haven't seen too many people that have sort of this rainbow identity color for their brand. So I think that's interesting as well if you want to take that on. Now this is about color trademarking. So you can trademark a color. It is not easy. I don't think I would recommend you doing that. T-Mobile will come get you if you try and use their magenta. I'll tell you about that story. So this is from a newsletter I read called The Hustle. It's awesome. It's about business. I highly recommend it, called The Hustle. So these are the most popular single colors included in trademarks. So blue is dominating with 18%, along with red / pink hues, which is also 18%. Yellow and gold is underneath it, and you see that brown is at 1%. If you can think of a brand with brown, it's going to be UPS, right? That's the one people always think of, the brown trucks. That's it. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. So let's see, what else? What other brand has brown? None. I mean, like UPS, it's brown and goldish, right? So it's just the brown truck that we know. I really can't think of any other brand that is a big brand that is recognizable. Hold on, let me check the chat. Let me see if there anything in here. Turner Construction, Hershey. How come I didn't think of that? That's great. Where's Hershey on this thing? Hershey's not here. We need to make a new chart here. And M&M and Cracker Barrel. Okay, Cracker Barrel I'm not sure is as big, but definitely M&M and Hershey's. Okay. Okay, so these are some of the trademarked colors, which I think is really interesting. Like I said, not easy to do. These companies got them. You have to fight for it. A lot of companies have been denied the trademark color, but these are the companies that have been granted the trademark color. So you see some familiar brands on here. So Christian Louboutin, the shoes, the designer, Coca-Cola, Tiffany Blue, John Deere Green, UPS Brown, T-Mobile Magenta. So I was actually reading The Hustle, that business newsletter, and it was about a small business owner who received like a cease and desist letter in his mailbox from T-Mobile because his color was too close to the T-Mobile Magenta. So be careful, guys. Don't use magenta as your color. Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm checking the chat in between as I go, just because I get distracted. Okay. So be consistent. 23% revenue increase due to consistent branding across all channels. And 90% of users expect to have the same branding across all platforms and channels. So what this means is that your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Twitter, your portfolio, your billboard, and your picture at the bus stop, and your picture on the bench next to it should all be the same. They should have it to be a recognizable face. My picture for my business is always the same. It's like me with an orange background and I have glasses on and my hair is back. And if I decide to update that picture, it will be the same across all channels. So be consistent. That's how people recognize who you are. Like, oh, I've seen that picture before. I know that face, and it just becomes more recognizable. So your brand values impact. It's pretty simple here. Lead more, learn more, and earn more. So once you're in a position to lead, because you've created that story, you've defined that character, you've talked about your experiences, and you've secured your reputation, you've built your network, you're able to lead more because you have more influence, right? People want to talk about you more, they like you. And when you're able to lead more, you're able to learn more. So if you're in a room, you're a new leader, right? You're just starting out doing presentations, things like that. Eventually you're going to be put in rooms or in areas and events where you have seasoned leaders there. And you can learn a lot from those people. So you're also increasing your network in that way. And you're able to learn more in that way. But also when you're leading more, maybe people will ask you to do a talk that you have no idea about. For example, the way I started doing this talk was a friend of mine, she asked me to do a talk on personal branding at Restaurant Brands International in Miami. And I was like, you know what? I've actually never done the talk on personal branding, but sure, I'll figure it out. And that's how I came up with this talk based on my experience and just doing research and learning. So once you're able to do these things, you can earn more. You can ask for more money. You can negotiate more. You have higher ROI. You can provide more to your client when your personal brand is more impactful. So what's your story? I challenge you to test all these things out that I've mentioned here. Ask people what they think of you. Ask people what color you are. Keep defining your story. Keep rewriting it until you're happy with it. You can do it at any time. You can just stop doing this, and you can, well, maybe not now during this 2020 pandemic, but you could have just moved to another country and decided to live a whole new life. So keep writing your story, and please share your stories with me. Please connect with me. I'd love to hear from you. I'm always open for questions or conversation. I'm going to give you some of my contact info here so you can stay in touch. I have my business Instagram on there, LinkedIn, my sites, and my email. And so now I know we are going to open up for Q&A. If anyone has any questions or anything they wanted to just mention, chat about, now is a great time to do that.
All right, so I didn't see any questions in the Zoom chat as we were going. It seems like you had everything answered. I have a question. When you were going over rapport, you mentioned a book, but I didn't quite catch the name. What was that?
Yeah, so it's a friend of mine wrote it, actually, a mentor of mine. His name is Mitch Cantor, and the book is called It's the Other Guy. You can find it on Amazon. I could send you a link. So basically, yeah, he ran a pool business in New York, and he told me all about, well, in the book, he told all about the different types of clients and how he builds rapport with them, and how to also stay away from clients who might be like a pain. It's not always you. Sometimes, yeah, maybe you're new, you don't do everything correct, but sometimes it's the person. And there's ways to understand that, okay, if you're in a meeting with a client and you're in their home and their kid comes up to them and they're like shooing the child away and they're not like being, loving with them and saying, okay, honey, 1 second. They're like, get away. It says a lot about the person. So maybe you don't want to work with that person as a client. So I thought that was really valuable.
Yeah, I'd love to get into that.
Yeah.
UXers, do you guys have any questions for Emily? Next week is portfolio week, so it's all about personal branding, and we've got a wealth of knowledge right here. I know you guys have some questions.
I do have a question. Sorry, my camera is off with the internet connection. But for example, I'm only 21. I didn't have that much experience in my life, and I'm not sure what part of my journey can be catching and playing well towards my career, So I was wondering, what are the steps that I could take in order to maybe find out my strengths, or maybe, I don't know, maybe somehow implement them in a better way in such situation, if you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so basically your question is about you're, a little bit younger and you're wondering how can you create a story out of the experience that you have. So I think it's important for you to first define or write down the experience that you have in general. So what have you done in your life? What kind of work have you done? What are your interests? What kind of events have you attended? Just things like that you think are notable. And then that is your story so far, So if you don't have anything, like when I was 21, let's see, I think I was just starting to lose weight when I was 21. So my story was, okay, I went to high school and I started college and I moved from New York to Florida and I was in chorus and I played softball and that was my story. But I wanted Shelby's story, like she had a good story. So from that point on, I decided, okay, well, now I'm going to start building my story and doing all these different things that can really impact other people and help other people, because at the end of the day, for me, I like to help other people. So I think that's where it begins, is just defining what you've done so far and then sort of defining what you want to do. So if you're an Iron Hack student, then, you know, maybe it's like, okay, now I'm an Iron Hack and this is what I'm learning here. And this is all the great people that I met. And this is part of your story, because Iron Hack was a launch pad for me. I was a product manager more recently, but going to Iron Hack changed everything about my life in a great way. So I think that's where it starts. I feel like I could ramble on about this for a long time, but feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram, and I can chat with you about sort of, you know, how to format it and make it, you know, sound good.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
What about you guys? Lauren, Monica, Bianca, Kenzel. I'm picking on my UXers because I know that you're here. And again, we do have a lot of branding work that we have to do next week. And that's why we have Emily here. So even if it's a question that you think maybe she's already answered or that you're afraid to ask, I'm sure she doesn't mind going over it one more time.
I don't have any questions, but I actually, so I got into your story before, like the branding at UX Portfolio, your portfolio sucks. And I actually did the questionnaire on Instagram and asked my friends, like, what do they think about me? And that really helped.
Did you get any surprising answers?
No, just the colors. They were gearing towards like egg white. They specifically like said egg white. So yeah, I started looking into like egg white. I knew it was like neutral colors, but like more towards like the nude, like pale gray-ish.
Okay, yeah, cool. I mean, it could be, you know, any color. If I think also what's really important, it shouldn't be only how other people see you, but it should be how much you agree with that. So if people saw me as like the color, I don't know, like hot pink, I wouldn't necessarily want that color. Like, I don't like to wear that color. I don't want, like, that's not my color. But when it was like orange and yellow, I was like, yeah, okay. But I think, you know, the egg white, like maybe with like a splash of something just to really make it stand out, could be really awesome. And I think in general that with logos and with branding, it's something that it's important to have a good one when you start, but it's something that can change. So actually, I'm not the strongest in UI. David actually helped me a lot with my branding for my logo for my company, Cleary. I'm more of the research strategy kind of person, but I can talk and, you know, network and things like that. So I think it's also about like finding your strengths and then also finding your weaknesses, and either trying to work on those weaknesses and become strong in them. Like mine is, you know, like UI, like I said, I'm not a graphic designer. It's not what I do. Or two, using your resources to make yourself look good. And that's what I did. So I just used my resources. I had a lot of really talented people in my cohort who were great graphic designers and great artists. And I was like, okay, great. You guys can help me because this is not my forte right here.
What's up, Emily? How are you? I like the records.
Thank you.
I have a question. It's kind of a silly question, but it's a question. So how do you feel about, well, I mean, yeah, how do you feel about the great controversial Instagram logo change? Is it because it was,
oh, the Instagram logo change.
yeah, like the little camera? Is it because it was brown?
Oh, okay, from a long time ago. I thought you meant because like now on the opening screen, it's like on the bottom, it's like from Facebook or something like that.
No. From the, I think it's 2016. I just Googled it.
I mean, I think they're doing pretty well. I think it was smart for them to do that. I don't know why they would choose that I guess maybe the brown logo came from like, because it looks like a little bit like a film camera.
Yeah.
So it has that nostalgic vibe to it, and maybe that's why they did the brown logo. I don't know what, I can't think of any other reason why, or maybe because nobody really has brown logos, besides, you know, the people that we talked about, that I wasn't recognizing half of them. So I don't feel any way about it. I think they did a good thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nico, I think for the Instagram logo, what it was is that it was, like Emily said, it was made to look more like a real camera. So they wanted to go to something that was easier to render at a smaller size. So that gets less understandable the smaller that it gets, unless you're already familiar with what it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Halfway right.
It's got to be both. It's definitely the brown. All right, guys.
Sorry. Do you think it would be useful to kind of think about yourself as a person and think about like the brand attributes you want, and then see if there are colors associated, like kind of like you had with the chart with the yellow means optimism? Should you first think of the words and then see if certain colors correspond?
I think that's a great way to do it. I don't think there's any correct way to do it. I think combining all the ways is what I would do. So like I said, I just asked people what color. I didn't go as far to do the whole brand attributes and define, you know, what do I want my brand attributes to be, but I think that's a great way of going about it. It just adds another layer to the brand, and I think it makes it more solid if you have that sort of, you know, definition behind it. Yeah, you're welcome. And I would say in general, if you're branding, even if you're not starting a company, right? So I have an LLC, but you're branding as a designer or as a web developer, or as a person, it comes with a lot of not just how people see you externally, but how you see yourself. So there's a lot of self-reflection in it. There's a lot of just like looking into yourself, introspection, understanding who you really are as a person, how you want to be understood, things like that. So there's a lot of self-work, I think, that needs to be integrated with defining your brand, because you're also defining yourself at that point. But that can always change, right? Because we always grow and we always learn, and it's not something that's so static. You just start somewhere and just like go with it, and then if you want to change your branding a week later, then you change it. But remember, it's your minimum viable portfolio, so something.
Hey, Emily, how are you doing? So I have a question, like, I guess at what point, what were like the motivational factors for you to create your own company?
Yeah, so when I started at Ironhack, I had two main goals. One of them was to become a product manager, which I did. And my other one was to become a full-time freelancer. So this is because I value freedom out of anything. I don't value money as much. I learned that about myself. I thought I did, but I value freedom and being able to spend my time the way I want to spend it. So that's how I started, you know, I was like, okay, I want to be a full-time freelancer and start an LLC. And so that was my inspiration for that. I kind of always wanted to do that, have my own business and just travel and do those kind of things. But I didn't start it actually until January of last year, so 2019. I graduated Ironhack August 2018, and my first client I had before I graduated, actually. And the way that I got the client, which I think is super important for you guys to know, so we would have guest speakers come in to the class, and I think the rules were different at that time. So you could still have your laptops open. I think now you can't. I'm not really sure, but anyway, the speaker was from this creative agency, and I was one of two people who were paying attention. There were 20 people in my cohort. Only two of us were paying attention to him. And I was asking him questions, I was engaged with him, and I took like photos of him presenting, and then I posted them on LinkedIn with my main findings, I guess, or my main takeaways from his talk. And I tagged him because we had connected on LinkedIn. And that's something actually I'll mention as well about LinkedIn connections. And from there, he's like, hi, Emily, I actually noticed you were one of the only ones who was paying attention. He like said it back to me. He's like, I actually have this project for Adobe that I think you could do. It's just content creation. It wasn't UX. He's like, can you come to the office and, you know, meet with me and blah, blah, blah. And so that's how I got the project for Adobe. That was Adobe Education Exchange. So I was just creating like cover art. I wasn't doing graphic design. I don't do that. It was just finding images basically to match with the content. So that was how I got my start in freelancing. And before I forget about LinkedIn, so I know right now we're not really going to events, but we're going to these online events, right? So maybe if there's a way to see who's in the chat or to see who attended, or when we can go to events in the future, what I would do is the people that I would meet, I would get their name, I would request them on LinkedIn. I had Sprint at the time, so my phone never worked. And I always had to take a screenshot of the person that I just met because my internet never worked. And I would write in my notes the person's name and like what we talked about. And then I would send them a message the next day or at home, when I got home that night, when I connected with them, say, hey, Ryan, it was really great meeting you. You know, I loved talking about the European country that you're in right now, in your Zoom background. And I can't wait to talk about when you go to Paris next week. You know, just like things like that. And that creates the rapport there. It creates some kind of relationship. It's not just like, okay, I'm randomly connected with Nico on LinkedIn without saying anything to him, because he's now on Instagram. I see you're famous, Nico. But yeah, so I think that's really important too. I forgot to mention that during the talk.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm a little tangential, so you guys can stop me if I'm just like going every direction.
Emily, we do have a question from the chat. When it comes to branding yourself, did you ever feel hesitant to put yourself out there? Sometimes I feel shy or scared to put myself out there. Maybe I'm scared of failure, but did you ever feel that way? And if you did, do you have any advice?
Oh, totally. Sometimes I still feel that way. I'm actually more of an introvert than an extrovert. So like this quarantine self-isolation has been like wonderful for me. So I did lose my job in the beginning. I lost my product manager job, but I didn't love it so much. So I wasn't too upset. And like with all the government money and I got like a severance and all of that, like I've been doing okay. And I've been doing things that I've really, really wanted to do for a long time. And I'm like very happy with not having to go out because I'm like, okay, I'll just be home. So I had to push myself, I think, to be an extrovert and push myself to get over fear in those situations. So I actually did another talk. I can send you the link, Juan, on YouTube, and it's about just showing up and just like letting that fear go, because fear it's internal. There's no reason to fear anything. If you fear it, then you can't fail at it and you can't learn from it. So if something scares you, so I'm not talking about like going to grab a snake that's going to bite you, right? Like I wouldn't do that. But if you're like talking about, you know, branding yourself and going to an event, putting yourself out there, as you were saying, what could happen? What's the worst that could happen? Like I would also say for you, Juan, a great tip would be to do a rejection exercise. So also something it's amazing. Like I've never done this talk online and I forgot to talk about so many things. It's always interactive and I always like say everything I want to say, and here I'm just forgetting everything. But a rejection exercise that a friend of mine and I did in high school. So this was her idea actually, and it's wonderful. We were at some drive-through, let's just say McDonald's. And she goes in the drive-thru and she's like, hey, can I have a Big Mac and fries? And the lady's like, okay, yeah, like pull up. And she's like, oh, can I have an extra large fries for free? And the lady's like, no. And my friend's like, okay. And so my friend pulled up to the window, right? And then she gave the cash and like pulled up to the next window, and the lady gave her the food. And then she asked again. She's like, oh, can I have an extra large fries for free? And now the lady's like looking at us like we're crazy. And she's like, no. And my friend's like, okay, have a great day. And that's it. Like that was the purpose of this exercise, was rejection, to learn how to be rejected and just take it, because it's just like, okay, you're going to get 1,000 no's before you get a yes. Look at Oprah, look at Steve Jobs, look at the Beatles. All these people were telling them no, but they kept going because they had to. That was their passion. It's just about like fighting that fear every time it comes up, and just showing up. Just show up for yourself, because you can't really make any changes if you're not showing up for yourself. And part of that showing up is just fighting that fear.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
to break the awkward silence. Do you miss Sweat 440?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about that all day about failures and fears and things like that. But I think in general, it's just the only way you learn from anything. Like for me, for example, that imposter syndrome also really gets to you, and that's a lot of people have that. So imposter syndrome, if you're not aware, is like feeling like you're not good enough or you don't know enough to do the job correctly. But be resourceful, like use your network, find your resources, ask the questions. I'm always asking 1,000 questions if I don't understand things. And failing is just part of life. It's just how you react to that failure. You just got to get back up and just keep doing it, and you'll learn. You'll get better every time. That first client, the Adobe client, he asked me how much I would charge, and you know what I told him? I was like, honestly, this is my first freelance client. I don't know how much I should charge you. Can you tell me? And he was a mentor at that point. He's like, for this kind of work, you get this much, and it should take you this many hours, blah, blah, blah. I had zero clue. And that's how I found out. And that's how I learned about rates. I started asking David a zillion questions. He's really knowledgeable about that. So if you don't know, just ask. Somebody else does know, and somebody will tell you for free. You don't have to pay for these like programs. There's a lot of great programs out there, but just ask around.
Good advice.
Piggybacking off of that, Emily, when it comes to finding freelance clients now after that first interaction, is it largely based off of your networking? How do you approach finding new clients?
Yeah, it was largely based off of my networking and referrals. So I got a few from LinkedIn. I got a few from Daniel Brito. He was recommending me. From other friends, sometimes from so I'll have like job alerts on from different websites. Even if I have a full-time job at the time, I always keep them on because my full-time jobs always know that I freelance also. So it doesn't look any kind of way, it doesn't look funny. So job alerts, job websites, Upwork, you can get clients from. There's different Facebook groups that you can be on. There's like just a bunch of different ways. And just talking to people, honestly, if people know what you do, what your skill set is, then if they hear of somebody that needs your kind of skill set, they'll recommend you. Be like, oh, I know one person who does, didgeridoo and basket weaving. You can reach out to them and they can help you. So it's just about letting people know who you are and what your goals are, what your desires are, and then people will help you even if they don't know that they're helping you.
Fantastic, thank you. And we do have another question in the chat from Chad, who wants to know, what's your favorite breakfast cereal?
Oh, Special K vanilla almond.
So specific.
I don't really eat cereal like that these days. But yeah, it's that vanilla almond one. It's got a good taste. What about you, Chad?
Honey Bunches of Oats.
Also solid.
The one with almonds.
See? That's why he asked. He knew. He could feel it. It's all about the Cocoa Pebbles. All right, Juan. I can feel that too. It's a little sweet for me. I never really liked the sweet cereals.
I have the biggest sweet tooth. Yeah.
Me too. But all my teeth are sweet, but it's like for chocolate. And I just wish I could get them all removed and replaced. It's terrible.
Same. I felt you a lot when you were talking about like losing weight and stuff. Yeah, that hit the spot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I had to give up all my favorite things, but yeah, it's been like 8 years since I've had any meat, any red meat, any